It was a quiet evening in the town of Budaun, Uttar Pradesh. The air was heavy with summer heat, and yet inside a modest house in Bareilly, the family of Rajkumar Masih lived in peace. Or at least that's how it seemed from the outside. Rajkumar worked as a wireless messenger in the police department, a respected and disciplined man who had raised his family with strict values and deep faith. His wife, Asha Masih, managed their bustling home with care, looking after their 4 sons and 2 daughters. The eldest son, Ravi, was married to Anuradha from Barabanki. The second, Dilip, was married to Sharda from Gorakhpur. The third son, Rajkumar, had recently tied the knot with Sharda's younger sister, Nisha. The youngest, Rahul, was still unmarried, full of dreams and laughter that often filled their home. But the story that would one day shake this family began long before anyone realized it. Rajkumar and Nisha's paths crossed during their pastoral training in Lucknow. The institute, run by a Christian organization called VCI, trained young men and women to serve the church and spread their faith. In the beginning, their meetings were formal. Polite greetings, shared lessons, quiet smiles. But soon the lines between spiritual learning and human emotion began to blur. Nisha was bright, confident, and quick with words, while Rajkumar was calm, humble, and kind-hearted. Their connection deepened in a matter of weeks. What started as friendship soon turned into love, the kind that made them believe destiny itself had written their story. When both families learned about their relationship, no one objected. After all, they already knew each other. In 2014, amidst prayers and blessings, Rajkumar and Nisha were married. The families rejoiced. It was a union built on faith and familiarity. After the wedding, Rajkumar completed his training and received his first posting as a pastor in a small church in Saran Kasganj, but soon his father used his connections to transfer him to Wazirganj, closer to home. Life at first was peaceful. Nisha was adored by her in-laws, especially her mother-in-law Asha, who treated her like her own daughter. The newlyweds laughed, prayed, and planned their future together. Everything seemed perfect. But happiness, as they say, is a fragile thing. As months passed, Nisha began to feel restless. She had completed her intermediate education and spoke fluent English, far better than her husband. Sitting at home day after day, she felt her mind and ambition slowly suffocating. One evening, she told Rajkumar she wanted to work. "I don't want to waste my time doing nothing," she said gently. "I can teach in a good English school. I want to do something on my own." Rajkumar, being a supportive husband, had no objections. His parents agreed too. Soon, after some effort, Nisha got a teaching job at Holy Child School in Budaun, a well-known English medium institution in the civil lines area. Her charm, confidence, and fluency quickly made her a favorite among students and teachers alike. She was given a room inside the school campus, a small but comfortable place where she lived with Rajkumar and later their 2 young daughters, Rajini and Tamana. Their little family looked picture perfect, the devoted husband, the loving wife, and 2 angelic girls. But beneath that happy frame, cracks were beginning to form. Rajkumar's work at the church often required long hours and late nights. The church was 23 kilometers away from Nisha's school, and sometimes he stayed there for days. Nisha was left alone in the school quarters, caring for the children, balancing her job and fighting the silence that crept in when night fell. Loneliness is a dangerous companion. It doesn't come loudly but slowly eats into the heart. And that's when Arjun entered her life. Arjun was a 20-year-old peon at the school, young, strong, and always eager to help. His father worked as a daily laborer, and his younger brother served at the principal's house. Arjun was simple, obedient, and respectful, at least in the beginning. One evening, when everyone else had left, he came to Nisha's room holding a bunch of keys. "Ma'am, I've locked all the classrooms. You just have to lock the main gate," he said politely. Nisha smiled. "Thank you, Arjun. Sit for a moment. Have some tea before you go." He hesitated, but she insisted. A few moments later, they were sipping tea together, just a teacher and her helper chatting casually. When he left, Rajkumar, who had been watching quietly, couldn't help but feel uneasy. "Nisha," he said softly, "you shouldn't be too friendly with that boy. He's a worker here, not your colleague." Nisha frowned. "I was just being polite. Why are you making a big deal out of it?" Rajkumar stayed silent. He didn't want an argument. But that night, for the first time, Nisha found herself thinking about Arjun's face, his soft-spoken nature, his shy smile. It was an innocent thought, or so she believed, yet something had changed inside her. Days turned into weeks. Rajkumar's health started to decline, and he began spending more time at the church. Nisha's loneliness grew darker. Arjun, noticing her isolation, began helping more, bringing groceries, carrying school supplies, fixing small things in her room. Each small gesture made Nisha feel noticed, cared for, alive again. Slowly, Arjun found his way into Nisha's heart, and she, knowingly or unknowingly, let him in. Love, when forbidden, burns twice as hot and destroys twice as fast. One evening, Rajkumar called from Wazirganj. "Nisha, I'll be staying at the church tonight. Don't wait for me." That one sentence sent a shiver through her, not of fear, but of temptation. As the clock ticked past midnight, her heart thudded louder than the silence around her. Then she saw Arjun outside, locking up the school gate. Something inside her snapped. She stepped out and called softly, "Arjun, come here. I need to talk to you." He walked into her room, hesitant. She offered him tea again, smiling as she always did. "Rajkumar won't be home tonight," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I get scared when I'm alone. Will you stay here, just for tonight?" Arjun's eyes widened. "Ma'am, if Sir finds out—" "Don't worry about him," she interrupted. "I trust you. That's enough." Her smile disarmed him. The night grew darker, and so did the choices they made. That night, a married woman and a young servant crossed a line they could never uncross. Nisha's loneliness had turned into desire, and Arjun's admiration had turned into obsession. Their souls intertwined in the shadows of sin, unaware that the same passion would soon lead to bloodshed. Their little family looked picture perfect: the devoted husband, the loving wife, and two angelic girls. But beneath that happy frame, cracks were beginning to form. Rajkumar's work at the church often required long hours and late nights. The church was 23 kilometers away from Nisha's school, and sometimes he stayed there for days. Nisha was left alone in the school quarters, caring for the children, balancing her job and fighting the silence that crept in when night fell. Loneliness is a dangerous companion. It doesn't come loudly but slowly eats into the heart. And that's when Arjun entered her life. Arjun was a 20-year-old peon at the school, young, strong, and always eager to help. His father worked as a daily laborer, and his younger brother served at the principal's house. Arjun was simple, obedient, and respectful, at least in the beginning. One evening, when everyone else had left, he came to Nisha's room holding a bunch of keys. "Ma'am, I've locked all the classrooms. You just have to lock the main gate," he said politely. Nisha smiled. "Thank you, Arjun. Sit for a moment. Have some tea before you go." He hesitated, but she insisted. A few moments later, they were sipping tea together, just a teacher and her helper chatting casually. When he left, Rajkumar, who had been watching quietly, couldn't help but feel uneasy. "Nisha," he said softly, "you shouldn't be too friendly with that boy. He's a worker here, not your colleague." Nisha frowned. "I was just being polite. Why are you making a big deal out of it?" Rajkumar stayed silent. He didn't want an argument. But that night, for the first time, Nisha found herself thinking about Arjun's face, his soft-spoken nature, his shy smile. It was an innocent thought, or so she believed, yet something had changed inside her. Days turned into weeks. Rajkumar's health started to decline, and he began spending avoirdupois. For a moment, the room froze in silence. Then Arjun quietly walked away, humiliation burning his face. He didn't say a word, but inside him, something snapped. He had been insulted in front of the woman he loved. That night, his anger turned into hatred, cold and deadly. Nisha too was shaken. She knew Rajkumar had doubts now. Fear of being caught began to haunt her, but another feeling overpowered it. Rage at being questioned, at being controlled, at the thought of losing the new life she had tasted. When Rajkumar later suggested they move back to Betrayal to live with his parents and start fresh, Nisha's heart filled with panic. She didn't want to go. Betrayal meant losing Arjun. That night, she couldn't sleep. Her mind kept spinning around one dark idea. By the time dawn came, that thought had turned into a decision. A few days later, Rajkumar left for his church duty in Wazirganj. The moment he was gone, Nisha sent a message to Arjun to come see her. When he arrived, she locked the door behind them and spoke in a low, trembling voice. "Arjun," she said, "I can't live like this anymore. He wants to take me away from you. If that happens, I'll die." Arjun looked confused, his eyes searching hers. "What are you saying?" Nisha's voice hardened. "If you truly love me, you have to help me. Rajkumar must be removed from our lives forever." For a moment, Arjun froze. Her words echoed in his head, louder than anything he had ever heard. Kill Rajkumar? It sounded impossible. He shook his head. "No, Nisha, that's wrong. I can't do this. We'll be caught. Please don't say such things." But Nisha stepped closer, her eyes glimmering with tears and manipulation. "You said you love me, didn't you? You said you can't live without me. Then prove it, Arjun. If he's gone, we can be free. We can live our life without hiding, without fear." The storm of emotions inside him raged, violently. Fear, love, anger, pride. In that storm, reason drowned. He looked at her trembling lips, her tear-filled eyes, and finally nodded. "I'll do it," he whispered. That moment sealed both their fates. For the next few days, they planned everything carefully. Nisha told him when Rajkumar would be home, when he would travel, what route he would take. Arjun even rehearsed the story he'd tell afterward. They wanted the death to look like an accident. A fall from a bike, maybe, or a train accident. Anything but murder. On June 15th, 2019, the day arrived. Rajkumar returned home after a week at the church. He was tired but happy to see his family. Arjun, pretending to make peace, came over with folded hands. "Sir," he said softly, "I've made many mistakes. Please forgive me. I'll never cross the line again." Rajkumar, ever the man of faith, believed him. He even smiled faintly. "It's okay, Arjun. Forget the past. Let's move on." Later that evening, Arjun approached him again. "Sir, let's go to the market. I'll get some fresh fish for dinner. It'll be good to sit and talk." Rajkumar hesitated for a moment, but then agreed. He thought maybe this was a chance to rebuild peace. As they rode through the quiet roads on Arjun's bike, the sun was setting, painting the sky in orange and crimson, the color of blood. They reached a lonely patch near Majia village, close to the railway tracks. Arjun stopped the bike and said casually, "Sir, you take the handle for a while. I'm feeling tired." Rajkumar agreed and switched seats. The road was empty. The air was still. And then, it happened. Without warning, Arjun pulled a pistol from his pocket and pressed it against Rajkumar's head. The sound of the gunshot tore through the silence of the night. Rajkumar fell off the bike, his body crashing onto the dirt. The bike tumbled beside him. Arjun stood there, breathing heavily, staring at what he had done. The man who once gave him food, shelter, and forgiveness now lay lifeless at his feet. But Rajkumar wasn't completely gone yet. He was still breathing, gasping faintly. Panicking, Arjun dragged his bleeding body toward the nearby railway track and laid him across it, hoping the next train would crush all evidence. Then, without looking back, he fled into the darkness. Back home, Arjun's clothes were soaked with blood. His family was horrified. "What happened?" his mother screamed, but he silenced them, his eyes wild. "No one will say a word about tonight," he ordered. After washing his clothes, he called Nisha. "It's done," he said coldly. "Rajkumar will never come back." Nisha didn't reply at first. The reality of what she had unleashed finally hit her. Her lips trembled. "Are you sure?" she whispered. "Yes," Arjun said. "It's over." But nothing was over. It had just begun. As the night passed and dawn approached, the first rays of sunlight revealed a horrifying sight to the villagers. A body lying across the railway track, blood-soaked and still. Someone called the police. Within hours, the area was crowded with officers and onlookers. The once peaceful fields of Budaun had turned into a crime scene. That morning, while the world woke up to a tragedy, Nisha sipped her tea in silence. She looked calm on the outside, but inside, her heart raced like a trapped bird. Every tick of the clock sounded like footsteps coming closer to her door. And she was right. Those footsteps were coming, faster than she could imagine. The morning after the murder felt eerily ordinary. The sun rose over Budaun as if nothing had happened. Children hurried to school, and vendors called out in the streets. But at the edge of the railway tracks near Majia village, a lifeless body told a different story, one of betrayal, love, and silent screams. The police arrived quickly, covering the body with a white sheet as villagers gathered, whispering in disbelief. There was no ID, no phone, only a 100-rupee note and a small folded slip of paper in the victim's pocket. The officers marked the area, took photographs, and sent the body for post-mortem. To them, it looked like a tragic railway accident, but something about the gun wound on the head didn't fit the picture. Meanwhile, miles away, Nisha tried to act normal. She taught her class, smiled at students, and returned to her room in the school building like any other day. But her hands trembled when she held her cup of tea. Her mind replayed Arjun's last words, "It's done." At night, when she closed her eyes, she saw Rajkumar's gentle face, his forgiving smile, and the blood she had invited upon him. Yet she forced herself to believe that what was done was for love. 2 days passed. Then came June 17th, the day the truth began to surface. That morning, local newspapers carried a small photograph of an unidentified man found dead near the tracks. The picture was blurry, but to the family in Betrayal, it was enough. Rajkumar Masih, Rajkumar's father, received a call from a relative. "Brother, did Rajkumar come home? There's a news photo. It looks like him." The paper trembled in Raghuvir's hands as he looked closely at the image. His breath caught. The face, battered, pale, lifeless, was indeed his son's. He didn't need confirmation. A father's heart recognizes his child even in death. Within hours, he, his relatives, and a few police contacts rushed to the post-mortem house in Budaun. When the body was brought out, the old man collapsed. Tears rolled down his weathered cheeks as he whispered, "Rajkumar, my son." Behind him, family members sobbed quietly. The silence of grief was thicker than any words could describe. Later that day, Nisha arrived at the mortuary, crying hysterically. She screamed, fainted, and wailed as if her world had ended. Everyone believed her. Everyone except one person, Raghuveer. He watched her carefully. Her tears looked too perfect, her grief too rehearsed. Deep inside, a whisper told him something was terribly wrong. He remembered the arguments Rajkumar had shared before, how he had caught Nisha and that peon, Arjun, together, how he had warned her to stay away. Those memories returned like sharp knives. By the time the funeral was over, Raghuveer's sorrow had turned into suspicion. That night, sitting in his quiet room, he called an old friend, a police officer. "I think my son was murdered," he said, "and I think my daughter-in-law knows who did it." The next morning, an investigation was reopened. The police began with small questions, tracing Rajkumar's last known movements. Witnesses confirmed he was last seen on a bike with Arjun heading toward the Majia area. That was all the confirmation they needed. Within a day, Arjun was arrested. When they brought him to the station, his nervous body language gave him away. The officers noticed something unusual on his arm, the name Nisha carved deeply into his skin with a blade, the wound still fresh. It wasn't just love, it was obsession. Arjun, in a separate cell, grew pale and withdrawn. Sometimes he muttered her name, sometimes cursed it. Love had become his punishment long before the handcuffs did. Months later, a reporter visited Raghuveer for an interview about the case that had shocked Budaun. The old man, his face lined with pain, said only one thing: "I raised my children with faith in God, but I forgot one truth. Sometimes evil wears the face of love." His words spread through the media, touching every listener who heard them. Years passed, but the story of Rajkumar, Nisha, and Arjun never faded from the minds of those who knew them. It remained a haunting tale of how love, when poisoned by greed and desire, can destroy everything pure. The two little girls, Rajini and Tamana, grew up under their grandparents' care, learning to live without their parents. The people of Budaun often whispered when they passed, some in pity, some in judgment, but all in silence. And yet, even today, one question still lingers in the hearts of those who hear this story. Was it love that destroyed them, or the emptiness that pretended to be love?